Tim Pool, a man who built his reputation on transparency, anti-establishment journalism, and calling out the media elite, admitted that he sat in a private meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu under a little-known confidentiality agreement called the Chatham House Rule. Watch this.
Oh!
Last night I wasn't here. I got late word that I was invited to a private roundtable meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Netanyahu has sat down at least twice with American podcasters and influencers in the past year. At Blair House across the street from the White House in April, where his guests included Spicer, Maha advocate Jessica Reed Krause, and podcaster Tim Pool. Israel quietly paid influencers on the American right $900,000 to peddle pro-Israel talking points in 2025 and plans to increase spending to $250,000 a month or $3 million annually. The money comes from an initiative called Project Esther. Tim Pool apparently has lost all his money. He's lost his spine. Except someone corrected me the other day. They're like, Jackson, Tim Pool never had a spine. You are correct. You are correct. Okay. I concede. But, so you may have seen this video where he said, like, he's lost his money and Timcast IRL might have to shut down. Did you guys see this?
So where does that leave us? We have 2 weeks left in the year before we go on our Christmas hiatus. I'm not a big fan of any kind of hiatus. I would prefer just to work. But it is taxing, it is grueling, of course. And there's a lot of infrastructure here that requires me to work all day, every day, Monday to Friday, with some extra work on the weekends, usually meetings. And I'm probably gonna have a stroke. My health's actually pretty good. My blood pressure is great. My resting heart rate is actually around 45. I exercise quite a bit. Haven't been able to skate in the past month or two, the holidays and
Bro is 40 years old and he's talking about the fact that he hasn't been able to skateboard as much as he wanted to recently. And he talks about how he's watching this like creepy young girl anime stuff.
But we have to have these conversations, and I have been with the people, our contractors, people we work with, our vendors, partners. And one thing is clear: the violence will get worse. It is going to escalate. We cannot keep going as status quo. Something has to change. It may be that, as we described after the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the threat to come and shoot up our studio and our workplace, we asked, at what point do we say, we can't do this anymore?
So he's trying to compare himself to Charlie Kirk. Meanwhile, he supports all these wars. He supports the starvation of the world's poorest people. He supports stripping these people who are fighting for their sovereignty. God gives every single person on the earth the opportunity to reach whatever the fullest potential of life could be. And Tim Pool is sitting here just stripping that away, stripping it away, which, by the way, that's exactly what pedos do. And it's why we are so disgusted with pedos, because that is what they do to children. It's the same thing, just stripping people's life and their potential for reaching the utmost of prosperity and freedom away from them. And that's what pedos do. That's why everyone in every civilization is there's one country that seems to be okay with it, who seems to provide safe haven for a lot of these sorts of people and tends to use these sorts of people in intelligence operations. But other than that, every civilization is disgusted and horrified by this, and usually, treats this sort of a crime with capital punishment. And that's effectively what Tim Pool is signing off on. And so he's trying to compare himself to Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, who in the final days of his life was speaking out against that. He was speaking out against that to Ben Shapiro's face, to Bill Ackman's face, to his donor's face, even going into the Oval Office to tell it to Trump's face when Trump was considering airstrikes on Iran, and he said, do not airstrike Iran. Bro, you're not Charlie Kirk. You're not Charlie Kirk. Right? You're taking secret meetings with Netanyahu, which we'll discuss in a second.
The cost of running Timcast IRL Studio and the projects around it exceeds the amount of money it brings in. That's just that breaking point, isn't it, for any business? If you need $100 to, run your restaurant, but you're only bringing 90, you go out of business. The issue? The cost isn't cameras or lights. The cost is security because of the escalation. It's an artificial cost to doing business that we can't balance. We can't forego security, but we can't sustain it either. So I've had some conversations with our partners. Been talking with Rumble. There may be a solution, and it's going to be rapid change very quickly. We're going to have some emergency meetings We've already had emergency meetings for obvious reasons. And there is a possibility that the 19th is the last episode of Timcast IRL.
Based. The only people who don't find that based, that the last episode of Timcast IRL are people who watch anime, people who are addicted to Rockstar Energy, people who smoke those like giant vape box things and they like make rings out of the smoke and they're like giant vapes, people who unironically wear beanies and flannels each and every day still, people who don't take showers. Am I missing anyone? That's who's upset about Timcast IRL possibly ending, right? Now, what's so interesting about this is Kim Iverson exposed the fact that Tim Pool actually might not be running out of money and he might be just totally lying through his teeth about this whole thing. Take a listen to what she has to say. If you don't follow Kim Iverson, go follow her on YouTube because she's got a great show.
Tim Pool, a man who built his reputation on transparency, anti-establishment journalism, and calling out the media elite, admitted that he sat in a private meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu under a little-known confidentiality agreement called the Chatham House Rule. Watch this.
Oh!
Last night I wasn't here. I got late word that I was invited to a private roundtable meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It was under what's called Chatham House rules. For those that are not familiar, this means that you cannot reveal anybody who attended, nor attribute anything to any one individual, as they can deny it, and they would. However, what I love about what the White House is currently doing, when you bring together a bunch of influencers and podcasters who don't know much about journalism culture, whatever you want to call it, not that we respect it tremendously, most people didn't know what Chatham House meant. So, with all due respect, it's funny because they bring us into the Blair House, which is where Netanyahu was staying. And immediately people are walking around with their cameras, their phones up. They actually took our phones from us. And I legit thought they would maintain Chatham House rules, meaning you can't quote the prime minister, you can't quote his officials and the other people who are there, but you can report what was said generally. If you wanted an official quote on a specific matter, you would then ask an official once the meeting was wrapped, and they provide you the exact quote. Or they would just say outright, like, we have put our quotes on that one.
Goy slop.
Okay, so this should alarm you because this wasn't just a...
Yes, Mr. Netanyahu, I respect your rules of the Blair House, of the Chatham House rules, Sir, yes, Mr. Netanyahu. Mr. Netanyahu, my girlfriend is at home drinking Rockstar Energy and Monster Energy watching anime. I can't wait to tell her about what took place. Oh, I can't tell her about what took place during my meeting with you, Mr. Netanyahu, because we have Chatham House rules. I respect those rules dearly, Mr. Netanyahu.
Conversation. It was a controlled environment.
Mr. Netanyahu, sir, I have one excruciating question I must ask you. I must interrogate you about, Mr. Netanyahu, sir. Am I, Tim Pool, allowed to wear a beanie under Chatham House rules? Because I have a strict policy that does override the Chatham House rules that says I must wear my beanie at all times.
Curated by a foreign government with the explicit purpose of shaping how you, the audience, see the world. And the people who agreed to this meeting weren't diplomats, they weren't intelligence analysts, they weren't even traditional journalists, they were independent journalists and influencers, the people you trust because you believe they aren't controlled. And now they are? So what is the Chatham House rule? So let's pause and explain exactly what this rule is because the devil is in the details and most people have never even heard of it. So the Chatham House rule was created in 1927 by the Royal Institute of International Affairs in London, aka the Chatham House. It was designed to encourage open, honest dialogue during times of war or diplomacy or instability. So here's the official definition. When a meeting or part thereof is held under the Chatham House rule, participants are free to use the information received, but neither the identity nor the affiliation of the speakers nor that of any other participant may be revealed. So let's break that down into plain English. You can repeat what was said, but you can't say who said it or where they work or where they're from or that they were even in the room.
Which is so stupid because it's like, okay, there's one head of state in the room. I wonder who could be saying the things that sound like a head of state is saying them, right? Anyways, so yeah, basically what happened was Tim went to this meeting. He apparently has no money. Apparently running a podcast, all this requires is a camera and lights, but somehow Tim Pool, the economic free market libertarian genius Tim Pool, whatever stupid ideology he claims to uphold, can't figure out how to run a podcast properly. And somehow he has done the impossible. He has run out of money running a podcast. It literally costs no money to run a podcast, but he has achieved this. And so then he goes to a secret meeting with Netanyahu at the president's personal home across the street from the White House, the Blair House, where Netanyahu is staying, and has this secret Chatham House rules meeting. And the guy needs money. And then he starts tweeting out things like this. Israel has literally never done anything wrong because Israel is the nexus of morality. Whether it is something, it is good is simply based on whether Israel does it. If Israel does it, it's good. And then we get this. Village Crazy Lady writes, in case anyone was wondering why Tim Pool has been acting like a lunatic, attacking Candace Owens for the past 2 months, take a look at this. Israel made plans over the past year to spend $900,000 on an influencer campaign with a U.S. audience, according to disclosure documents, as Israel fights negative sentiment on the right. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with conservative social media stars on at least 2 of his visits. Well, we know Tim Pool was one of them. Let's keep reading from the Wall Street Journal. Israel's Netanyahu has sat down at least twice with American podcasters and influencers in the past year. At Blair House across the street from the White House in April, where his guests included Spicer, Maha advocate Jessica Reed Krause, and podcaster Tim Pool.
Uncle Bibi, can you loan me a few shekels for this anime skateboard?
Probably a real question that was asked, but of course, Chatham House rules, Shabbat House rules. We can't disclose the nature of who made the comments, right? I don't know who could have made that comment. They go on to write, he urged support for U.S. intervention in Iran, which Trump would eventually carry out in June. At the Israeli consulate in New York, during a September meeting timed to the United Nations General Assembly, Netanyahu called on the influencers to fight back against anti-Israel sentiment on the right. We have to fight back. How do we fight back? Our influencers, Netanyahu said, according to a video posted on Instagram by Leah, who attended. That community, they're very important. And last bit here. In September, a newly formed firm called Bridges Partners registered as a foreign agent for the government of Israel and disclosed plans for a 900,000 influencer program dubbed Esther Project. The project, which started during the summer of 2025 and was scheduled to continue until the end of the year, would cost up to $250,000 a month when it was in full swing, regulatory disclosures said. A representative for the Israeli government did not respond to a request for comment. $900,000. I wonder who could be receiving that money. I wonder who could they be spending $250,000 a month. I wonder who could be. Could it be the guy that's now saying all this pro-Israel bullshit? Israel quietly paid influencers on the American right $900,000 to peddle pro-Israel talking points in 2025 and plans to increase spending to $250,000 a month or $3 million annually. The money comes from an initiative called Project Esther. Okay, absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible. Now, I want you to keep a few things in mind here. Tim Pool says he's got no money. Tim Pool goes to Netanyahu meeting. Tim Pool starts saying a bunch of pro-Israel stuff. Tim Pool denies genocide and starvation and that war with Iran is bad. Tim Pool does tweet saying everything Israel does is good. There are good things in the world, bad things in the good. The way you know it's a good thing is if Israel does it. And then we also have this. We have this, which is a very, very, very odd addition to this story, which of course is that Tim Pool is not officially legally implicated in this story in a criminal manner, but this was a weird story. 2 Russia Today employees indicted for covertly funding and directing a U.S. company that published thousands of videos in furtherance of Russian interests. Employees of Russian state-controlled media outlet deployed nearly $10 million to publish RT-curated content, which garnered millions of views through a Tennessee-based online content creation company. So allegedly, and again, Tim Pool was never held, indicted or anything like that. He was never charged for this. But allegedly what happened was the U.S. State Department, which believe what you will, it was the Biden administration, right? They said that through a series of shell companies, millions and millions of dollars were being funneled to the American right wing. And Tim Pool and the Timcast show was allegedly, or some side project Tim Pool is doing, was allegedly one of the recipients, and they were receiving like $400,000 a month. Now, keep in mind, Tim Pool was never charged for anything. And his official statement was not that money was not being channeled in his direction. I believe he did own up to that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he did own up to the fact that like a good amount of money, maybe $400,000 a month, was coming in his direction from this whole operation. But he said like, oh, I didn't know about it. I didn't know who was behind the money. I didn't know any of this stuff, right? So that was what happened. And then, so you have that. The money clearly got, I guess it was cut off. I'm sure there were legal threats made if they did not cut off the flow of cash to the show. But also that may or may not have landed Tim Pool in the crosshairs of federal authorities in the United States. And then you have him doing these private meetings with Netanyahu and potentially taking his cash.
I've seen billboards on the way to the airport advertising Tim Pool's podcast. You need to have deep pockets for that. Tim Pool is a lying thug.
Yes, 100%. I mean, he's completely lying because apparently they were getting a great deal of money through this operation, and then it got cut off, and now he's taking these private meetings with Netanyahu. So I call bullshit. I say Tim Pool, he's got a very special relationship with Netanyahu. So special that he didn't go to the public influencer meeting. He went to the private Chatham House rules meeting at the Blair House, which is like the residence of the president for foreign dignitaries and heads of state and stuff. He's got a very special relationship with that Netanyahu, a podcaster who lives in the middle of nowhere and skateboards all day and drinks Rockstar Energy and watches creepy anime. And he gave his phone to these Israeli bureaucrats as he went into the private meeting with Netanyahu. I can only imagine what is really going on there. Who knows? Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.